Welcome to the Possibility Paradigm podcast, where we have conversations that are at the intersection of possibility, consciousness, actual experience, and energetic intelligence. The Possibility Paradigm are actually more than conversations. They're experiences that can change your tomorrows. Let's jump into today's episode. Welcome everybody to today's episode of the Possibility Paradigm podcast. I am Grace Ambrook. And this is the third of a series, and the series is called Stabilisation Series. And this episode is going to be pretty direct and to the point. If you haven't listened to the other two sessions, my suggestion is that you do that, because this will land quite differently when you've listened to the first and second one. So the previous two episodes. Today, the focus is clarity actually isn't your problem. You just simply are not trusting what you see. And for all the reasons that you might have around why that is so, that's the paradigm shift that we're into today. And so that quite often sounds like, I need more clarity before I move. I just need to clear this up before I make a decision. The higher truth here, and when you acknowledge it and you play in it, everything changes so much. So instead of, I need more clarity before I move, it's, I already see clearly. What do I need to do to trust this? Who do I need to become? Actually, now, if you listen to the previous podcast, you will know that that's actually not the right question, because you're not becoming anything ever. You're actually aware of something that's already done. So I already see clearly. The part of me that knows that it's already done trusts this and come from there. So, there's a moment, and you know these moments, right? When something is clear. It's not intellectually, it's not logically, it's just super clear and very apparent. And almost immediately after that, you start to question it. So you'll probably go into the hows or the whys or the, I don't want to do that, so-and-so will be upset, etc., etc. And so, just to make this clean and precise, this is a paradigm that's shifting, because that is going to slow the ascension of humanity down a lot. So the old model is that you wait for certainty. You analyze the decision. You do the pros and cons. You do the risk assessment, and you validate externally. Now, the new model is about, you recognize the clarity instantly and you move while it's clean. It's already done. You already know it. You are already coming from it. Again, refer to the previous episode. And let that decision stabilize through your actions. And this is where you begin, this is the new paradigm, to trust your internal signal over external noise. And I know the validity of this simply by looking at how loud the external is currently operating. So we are in the end of March in 2026. There's a lot going on, and it's a very noisy global environment. And your trust of your internal signal will be being tested right now. And it always is when we're in expansion and stabilization. And so, again, let me just run through that again. So the old model, and we've got to remember that the old model is what has brought us to this place here, where it looks a bit like a SHIT show, and there's a lot of uncertainty. So just let me reiterate the old model and the new model. Old model waits for certainty, analyzes decisions, checks for risks, and validates externally. The new paradigm is recognizing clarity instantly, moving while it's clean, because everything is moving incredibly quickly, moving while it's clean, and letting the decision stabilize through action, and trusting the internal signal over the external noise. This is not denial. This is why awareness and non-judgment are essentials in your consciousness toolkit. And so, because when you presume that clarity is your problem, rather than trusting your internal signaling, the loop will look like this. You get very confused. And at the moment, you get very upset and you get very judgmental of the gap. And so it's actually not confusion. You actually know, you see what to do. You feel the direction. And then the mind steps in and says, is this right? What if I'm missing something? Should I think about this more? People will think I'm wacky if I do this. If I'm not upset about this, that, and the other thing, and go, oh, okay, I may need to make some adjustments in the mission that I give my money. I don't do budgets. I do give money missions for a certain period of time. Yeah, sure. Or you can go, oh, this is very wrong. I'm very confused. I don't have any clarity, because the external is trying to make all the smart people confused, because the smart people will not feed that wolf. And so confusion, I don't know. Yes, you do. You're already there, right? It's already done. The resolution is already done. And so instead of the old paradigm, no, just let me go back to the old paradigm. So what happens is, instead of moving, it could be big movements, could be little movements, moving rather than sitting on the asses and whinging and bitching and catastrophizing. So instead of moving, the old paradigm then is about delay. You spend a lot of time, when I say you, I mean we, spend a lot of time unnecessarily judging and concluding, and then probably unconsciously we go about seeking confirmation of the wolf that we've just been feeding, and the confusion and the disappointment and the clarity, and I need more of something before I can move, right? So we're in that, and the original clarity seemingly dissolves or disappears, and then we're left even more wobbly. So what if, and this is actually the distortion, this is the edge that we're all on, it's actually not a lack of clarity. Clarity actually arrives really clean. And the distortion of that is what happens afterwards. So again, most people don't have a clarity problem. It's actually a trust issue or a lack of trust. And, trusting that these things will turn out better, when you're externally driven and reactive, that trust will feel like I don't know, the image that I just got was like a slippery balloon, right? Anything that can take you beyond this, and you try and hold it, it slips out. because you think it's more about more clarity. This is actually about a trust of consciousness, of possibilities. So, because clarity is actually, it's simple, it's often quiet, but not, when I say quiet, it's not passive. Like it's actually, clarity is really high voltage. So when I'm talking to people, in fact, I was talking to a woman this morning and she was saying how intense the energies are. And I'm going, oh no, babe, that's just like super high voltage, right? And we're aware of the high voltage that is available to us now. And that high voltage is clean, right? It's fast, it's simple. Distortions, they're layered, they're noisy, they're repetitive. And the longer that you sit with a clear decision, now let me phrase this differently. If you sit on something, the more interference enters. If you sit on things. So you're not meant to really hold clarity or analyze it or improve it. You're meant to move from it. So again, like the previous episode where it's already done, move from there. And it's quite a big paradigm shift. That's why I really encourage you to listen to the 2 previous episodes, because this will make sense around moving from it, because you're no longer waiting for the new identity and you are no longer looking to the wrong places as a way to move you in the direction you know you're meant for. In business, that looks like strategy. In life, it looks like external validation, waiting for external validation before you know it's the right thing to do, or using what's going on externally to validate your own insecurity and distrust on the inside. That's really painful. So, where was I? Clarity. See, I've got to go back to my notes, right? Otherwise, you can see how I can go anywhere with this conversation. And so, clarity is fast, it's high voltage, it's simple. It's the distortion, which is noisy, repetitive, and layered. When you sit on something rather than moving, even sometimes they're big movements, sometimes they're small movements. But movement will inhibit the interference. Inhibit, not fix it, inhibit. So delaying. So in business, look, like let's have a look at some practicalities here. So when you're rewriting messaging that was already clean, when you are delaying offers that you already know you're ready for, but you project into people not being ready for them, where you hesitate on decisions that felt obvious initially, and where you constantly asking others about what you already know, right? So with people I work with, I see this a lot in the rewriting, and their justification for it will be, well, the energy's changed, and to a degree, I agree, but this is the joy of actually stabilizing foundational energies, because when that is stabilized, when you're not just stabilizing an offer, when you're actually stabilizing all of you, then everything that comes from you is clean. And so we don't want to stall momentum. We don't want to dilute our power. And we don't want consistent results is actually a limitation, right? Because consistency is a definition, the world as I see it, it's always in momentum and it's always in expansion. So I'm not particularly an advocate of consistent. It's always in movement in a particular direction, which is to greaterness, right? But it's like, anyway, that's again another topic. So a couple of the things that you can do to assist you in this shift is just acknowledge the first moment of knowing. Now, I'll give you a silly example, but I've been putting off changing my client management system for about 2 years. And I've recently changed. So if you're on my website and there's a few hiccups, can you tell me? And the consequence of that, so 2 years, probably $250 a month. I'm no good at on the spur maths, but that's a fair amount of finances. So I've got a better product at a more reasonable price that suits what I'm doing and where I'm going. And so if I had done that, my first moment of knowing, there would be 24 times $250 more in my account. Just as a practical perspective, the first moment of knowing, I can guarantee that everybody's listening to this, when you had a knowing about a relationship and some dynamic within that relationship, and then you dismissed it and overrode it and didn't want it to be true, then I'm sure you are aware of, it's like, oh my God, why didn't I just address it then, right? There and then. So this first moment of knowing. Take an action each and every time when you get a knowing, because knowing is not based on right or wrong. Knowing is an awareness that generates greater for everybody. And that movement is best to be a short window, because the longer you leave the window open, more distortion flies in through the window, right? The other thing is reopening decisions that were already clear, revisiting stuff that you've already decided, right? That's a crazy one. And knowing that this trust is neutral. Trust does not require it to be right. It's only a distortion that has any charge on it. Trust is way bigger than that. Trust is full of curiosity. It's like, oof, I know this is taking me somewhere. Not this has to be the right thing, which is again going back to the first of this series around the stabilisation, is well, listen to that, and again, it will make sense, because when you need strategy, it's like a guarantee. So this trusting doesn't actually require time. Or maybe a better way of saying this is clarity doesn't require time. It just is asking you to trust and move, and then release any projections or definitions and keep staying tuned in, because it's only going to get clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer and clearer. So listening to these last three episodes, I think what becomes very clear about where I'm coming from is, life is not really a mindset issue, and it's not really about confidence. It's about stabilizing the system, your field, your energy. and strengthening it enough to hold clarity of the truth of you without distorting it. And, for most people who are working at higher level, this is the real edge. It's actually the stabilization. And that's the exact level that I work with clients. I'm not helping you find answers, but stabilizing the place and the space that is the next iteration of you so that your decisions don't collapse. They move you. And they move you because your energy field is stabilized enough to move. So this means where momentum can build more naturally. And it's interesting, I'm just thinking of a client that I work with who's a woman in a very male-dominated, very competitive field. And what she has experienced is, it's like, how did she explain it? It's like, some of the games that were played, they just fall off her. Like, she sees them so clearly of the game, and her clarity and her stability of field is so stabilized that energy and the game playing and the problem making, etc., like, it literally falls off. It falls away. It doesn't exist in her field. Now, this enables her to be the visionary leader, moving everybody along, even though they're trying to distort, delay, and paint a pain in the backside around it, right? And so, because this means that you're anchoring the stabilized field of you in this next iteration, decisions become clearer, momentum builds more naturally, and you and your business expand, not because you're trying harder, but because you're stabilizing this energy that's even bigger than trust, right? So trust is important, and then there's more. So at any point when you're listening to these podcasts and you'd like to know more about those, you can go to my homepage and connect in there, and send me an email and simply let me know that you'd like to know more about the possibilities of working together. So, and I'd love to hear from you, because if this is resonating, this is a connection. All right, again, remember, you're the possibility. Bye for now. If this conversation sparks something within you, subscribe to the Possibility Paradigm podcast and share this episode with someone who you know is ready to explore life beyond old frameworks. I mentioned in here a special gift of one of my catalysts that I share with people, and you can access that through clicking the link below, and it will take you immediately to that simple, highly effective process to move the energy within you so that you and your mind and your brain can move in the direction that you're choosing to go in. Remember, you're not searching for possibility, you're remembering that you are the possibility.